Hey guys, what's going on?
Roosevelt, hello, how are you? Hi, Kim.
Hey, John. Hey, Roosevelt. Good to be with you today.
Man, I'm so happy for the day. It is a beautiful day outside. I know it's a beautiful day there. I saw the map. I think it's like clear all across the South right now.
It's gorgeous day.
Yeah.
I should be sitting out in my yard right now instead of sitting outside. But maybe next podcast I'll do it al fresco.
Well,
There you
I could have
go.
been outside too, but I was watching football, and it was an LSU upset Florida, so I guess that was a good thing, and it looked like Georgia and Kentucky were battling pretty hard at this point.
Oh yeah. My son is downstairs watching it right now. So he's not a Georgia fan, but hey man, you just like good football pretty much. So I'm not going to hold you guys that long today because we're going to talk about this busy weekend that we had a couple of weeks ago. That I was able to come down and participate in. I flew down to back to Shreveport, able to participate in just Shawn Wilson and Chuck Marohn. Shawn Wilson being the Louisiana Department of Transportation Secretary. I said Secretary or President. I think it's Secretary.
Secretary of Transportation.
You can elevate him if you want to. I'm sure he'd be good with that.
I know he'd be happy with that. So we was able to meet with Shawn Wilson, which is great. I got there probably at the last minute, jumping off the airplane. But another thing that happened that day was a lunch with Chuck Marohn that a lot of stakeholders had with Mr. Chuck Marohn that we can get into. And then later that night, we had the Chuck Marohn book signing and his presentation, which I loved. And I hope that everybody's able to see his presentation. I think you can go to his website. What we'll do is we'll put the website on our YouTube page, the link to it, so you can go and check out the presentation. And then the last thing we had was the workshop that you can get deeper into, Kim. That I still have the paperwork right here. I still have it at this moment. I tell you, me and my mom went over it a little bit afterwards, try to get a better understanding on it. So I got it right here. But man, it was just a busy weekend. I know you guys are just recovering. How you feel about the weekend, that week that passed?
Oh man, that was a great experience. And anytime Chuck Marohn's in town is a great one. But to have Secretary Wilson come visit us again, wow, that was fantastic. He's everybody's Secretary of Transportation, but Dr. Wilson is also a friend of Allendale Strong, and he had a great visit. What did you think, Kim?
Oh, John, I know it. The reason he was there is because you have a close relationship with him and y'all text but he really, you said that right. He really is the secretary for all of us in the state, not just the power group. And that was so evident in the way that he communicates with our group. You feel that he's very open and upfront, and it was a really excellent meeting. And I would venture to say, I got no reason to do this, that our meeting was better than the meeting that he went to after he left us.
Yeah. We could probably talk about that at the end also, that meeting he went to after he left us. But let's go ahead and jump into the Shawn Wilson meeting because, by the time I got there, you guys had kind of already started, but I think he was still, Rosie kind of went on a little tangent, in the beginning. She was like, let me go ahead and get my 2 cents out, right? beforehand. I don't want to get drowned out later. So she threw the first lob out there. And I do believe that Shawn Wilson kind of hit that one out the park on her feelings about how the neighborhood should be a part of the whole decision making, the whole decision making process. And he came back and pretty much said that you guys are part of the decision making process because of something that we're doing now, because of what we're doing now. You have to put yourself in the conversation, and that is what Allendale Strong is doing. And he just after I can tell that his thoughts align. Not we're not parallel, not perfectly parallel, right? But his thoughts align with our thoughts in fix first, fix what we've already built first, right? Let's not go out here and try to build something more. How do you feel about that, John?
Well, he posts a lot on Twitter, and today I saw that he posted Louisiana Department of Transportation has just closed another bridge here in the state. And that really speaks to, we're in double digits on bridge closures. We're a state that needs a lot of bridges because there's a lot of streams, we call them bayous, but they need bridges, and the bridges are expensive to build and expensive to keep up. And nobody knows better than Dr. Shawn Wilson that we've built more than we can afford to keep up already. So I think, as he puts it, he'd rather not build anything else and add to the inventory of infrastructure that he can't afford to keep up. And seeing that post today drove that home for me. So yeah, he's on the same page as us. Fix the bad before you add anything else.
Yeah, I found him open to changing policies and practices of DOT too. Very willing to work with us on that. But he was also very clear that, he doesn't try to influence the politics of a local community like Shreveport and Bossier. And that ultimately, no matter what he thinks, that political power, if you want to call it that, in a community tends to set the direction for a community, and he has to work with that. And I think he's, I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like he's appreciative of a group like that, ours, that is really trying to change the conversation, trying to do our homework like we do, and then trying to help the public see the truth, actually, because unfortunately our leaders are following lies and following propaganda, as Chuck has us understanding more deeply.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the notes that I got from the meeting. I took some notes that have national positions do not see I-49 as a bad thing. Talking about the Louisiana Senate and congressmen, representatives. I mean, and I also wrote down he cannot dictate what the money is used for. He goes by the local suggestions of the politicians of the area. He said he cannot confirm or deny the existence of the traffic model for I-49 because somebody brought that up in there. And on my last note that I wrote down was $14.8 billion backlog of maintenance deficit for Louisiana and about $1.6 billion backlog for Shreveport.
Yeah,
for the Shreveport area.
And he said that the backlog on new mega projects that are unfunded is even bigger than the maintenance. And so, we've talked about that, and we knew it was around 15 billion of each, which he confirmed. And that's just so hard to believe that our political leaders would continue to try to promote new projects when we have such a big deficit. It's really hard to understand that, but yet that's what other parts of the state face as well.
Yeah, we're just, So I'm here in the Atlanta area, and we're just widening road after widening this road and widening that road. And it just seemed like, we're always adding a road or doing something to a road or just to, it's almost, it's really just this thing where we're just going in circle and circle and circle. And we're not, they offer, they say, hey, this is the problem, because they're trying to extend MARTA. They're trying to, right now, they're talking about in the city of Atlanta, they're going to turn Peachtree into a bikeable road. They're going to completely shut it down for 3.5 miles to have a celebration. I think it's every month, at least one weekend out of a month. They're going to shut it down for like 6 hours. And the people are just going to bike on it. That's the only way you're going to be able to ride on Peachtree, right? You're going to be able to bike back and forth. They're going to have musicians and people out there. And it reminds me of when I went to Poland, and every weekend in Poland, they have the square right there in front of the church. In every city has this. They shut off the road. Right, they already had the little stanchions. They come up, they hit the button, it comes up, shut off the road, and they pretty much restaurants. They open up. You can walk in the middle. They have people out there blowing fire, doing all types of stuff, and that is almost telling people, you can't have cars in places like this. You can't put a car within this place to celebrate, this place to feel safe. Because once you introduce a car, you introduce anxiety and things like that. I know I just went on a tangent way off of where we're going, but that kind of, on the other hand, you have Atlanta that's building on interstate after interstate, trying to wide this and wide that. But then you also have the small contingent that's trying to get away from that. That's trying to say, stop it, people. Chill.
Yeah, and Roosevelt, that I guess there are a number of cities that from time to time block off roads for celebrations. That's pretty ambitious to do it for the length of time you're talking about. But what we're learning from Chuck, I think, is that if you slow traffic down enough, pedestrians and cars can be together, and it can be very safe for pedestrians. And so hopefully that's a transition that of getting to, we need cars, but we need them to coexist where we prioritize pedestrians, truly prioritize them, because right now we don't. And even the concept of a complete street is more about still maintaining speed of vehicles as a priority. So that's interesting. Back to Shawn, if we still want to continue some wisdom from him, another thing he shared that I noted was that he's responsible for 16,000 miles of roads statewide. And this is just state responsibility. So it's the interstates and the state highways. That doesn't include all the local streets that are not part of that state network. And in Shreveport and Bossier, we have 400 miles of state sponsor or supported roads, which is kind of, that goes to the volume of roads that we have that we're $14.8 billion in deficit maintaining. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and maybe a way to think about our community is how many miles of roads do we have? He gave us the state roads that he's responsible for. I wonder how many miles of maybe we should call them streets or stroads do we have in Shreveport that add to that volume or that quantity. Might be interesting to know. It may be out there, and I'm just hadn't looked for it before.
Yeah, it's likely out there. Well, you got anything last you want to throw in there about the Shawn Wilson meeting, John?
No, I'm just really grateful. It was sheer happenstance that I first met him at a meeting of the annual meeting of his staff, along with the state and delegations on committees that deal with roads and bridges. And I just went to that meeting, thought it'd be something to do, learn something, and made a new friend. I went up to him after the meeting and invited him to come see us in Allendale. And he said, okay, I will. We've been friends ever since. He's really a great guy, and I'm so happy to know Secretary Wilson. He's broadened my view too. I've learned more about what a job it is to take care of all these bridges and all these roads. I never paid attention to bridge closures before I got interested in all of this. So yeah, what a great time, and what a great coincidence that Bossier Chamber invited him to be in town the same day we had Charles Marohn in town. So we got to see both of them. Yeah.
I don't, maybe we've already said this, and it just, I was thinking something else, but a big thing we got out of our conversation with him was that he confirmed what we had heard was told the governor by the federal Secretary of Transportation, is that during the Biden administration, no federal funds are going to go to run over any more African-American or Hispanic neighborhoods. That's good news. That really, John, you'd heard that from a city council person who had heard that expressed by Congressman Mike Johnson, and we've just been cautiously saying, well, how do we confirm that? And so the secretary gave us that confirmation.
Yeah. That was excellent. And like I said, he couldn't confirm or deny, but he did say that as far as money flowing, it's not going that way. And one last thing.
I was going to say another thing occurred later in the day. Secretary Wilson was interviewed by I don't remember which local network, but in that he said that the business boulevard is a viable alternative, which we've not been able to get NLCOG to recognize that or work with us on bringing that into their build alternatives. But he said that it's viable. He told us that in our meeting, and he repeated it to the television network. So that was another good thing out of his visit for Allendale Strong.
Oh, definitely. And one last thing on that, Tabitha, and this is for everybody that's listening probably, Tabitha brought up Ford Street. Ford Street is a state street. And it is so much going on with Ford Street. I started taking notes, but it was so much he said about it. I was like, we might just have to have Tabitha come on and talk about Ford Street. So, but she brought it up. So everybody that's probably thinking themselves, Ford Street is garbage. Yeah, everybody knows. He knows Ford Street is garbage, but it's in line. It's that long line.
Yeah, keep adding great things about that meeting. We had two elected officials at the meeting with Dr. Wilson, and Tabitha Taylor, the city council person for District A that includes Allendale, was there, and John Paul Young, a Caddo commissioner, was there. And I think we would have had John, as I appreciated, two others, Stephen Jackson, who's a commissioner for that, his area includes Allendale, and he's been a good supporter and always there for Allendale Strong. And he had a conflict, and then Cedric Glover, I believe, you felt like he was going to show, and he's certainly been a supporter of Allendale Strong.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I was very happy to see them there. So on to another event that I didn't participate in. I had to go home and see mommy while I was there. But Kim, you want to go into the lunch that you guys had with Chuck Marohn?
Yeah, I won't name names, but there is a philanthropist in Shreveport who has been a supporter of the Strong Towns movement. And I was fortunate enough to attend a small luncheon where Chuck was there. Our anonymous sponsor for the events was also there. And it was just a really pleasant time and good conversation. And, I felt like that Chuck is deeply committed to our community and to being a part of those things that Allendale Strong is about and things that community renewal is about. And so that was a short time, but it was just added to the wonderful full day that we had. And after that, we headed to Allendale for a last minute reception for Chuck at the Friendship House, which is where he first met our group.
Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun, just hanging out on the front porch, nice afternoon, and getting to visit with everybody. And what did we have? Friends of Allendale Strong in from New Orleans and from Lafayette and Dallas. So it was a lot of fun to get to see everybody in person instead of
the friendship houses have, all of them have really big porches. And I don't know how we ended up out on the porch, and I was asking around, and apparently Chuck suggested that we go out on the porch.
Yeah.
And it's just really wonderful being on that big porch and everyone feeling comfortable and talking. And Chuck signed a few books there. He signed one for Tabitha that Allendale Strong presented to her. And we had that great picture made, which on the steps with everyone that was there. That was great.
Oh yeah, that was a wonderful time, man. The weather was it was just like this weekend. Awesome. The weather was awesome. It was nice and dry, no humidity, a nice little breeze coming through. I mean, and just to sit out there on the porch, you guys can go to our Facebook. Actually, I might even you can go to our Facebook page and see the picture that we all took on the steps there with everybody there. But it was, it was a lot of people there, a lot of people just talking amongst each other. It was a wonderful, it felt like a picnic, a barbecue almost, right? Mm-hmm. Just sitting out there, just talking. We were all talking about, just, the different things going on in Louisiana, and talking to Chuck Marohn about his book and why he's down there. But it started evolving to asking about family and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. That was a very unexpected thing, but that was probably one of the better moments of the weekend. But we had a lot of stuff going on the weekend. Do you want to add anything else from the lunch or the little meeting that we had, John and Kim?
Oh, well, that's what my parents described. That was what we did here in Shreveport back in the old days. You'd go out of the house, especially during the summer, and talk to your neighbors. And it seems strange to be doing it. And, nobody had a TV on. There was no video games going. So Chuck's like, why don't we all go out on the porch? And I was thinking, this is like Mom and Dad used to tell stories about doing. You'd see your neighbors wave to them, and they'd come over and visit. So yeah, that was a really nice old-timey American thing to do.
It really showed the connection that Chuck has to some of the residents of Allendale. That he describes in his book in chapter 8 his experience of the first time that he met with us in Allendale, and you can see it when he reconnected with Louis Brosette and of course Dorothy and some of the other folks that he's gotten to know over time that live on Clay Street or in the Friendship House area. It was really just a cool thing to be a part of.
Mhm.
Definitely. All right. And later that night, it was the book signing, and the presentation, his presentation, that was a very educational presentation, I would say. It really, I hadn't completely finished the book by then, so he threw in some spoilers on me. I was right at I think chapter 8, but he kind of went further into it, and that like I said, after that, and I was able to finish the book. It was kind of good having that kind of spoiler, that presentation to finish the book on. And I'm gonna reread his Strongtown book just to kind of capture a lot of the things he talked about in the book. Kim, you want to throw in your thoughts about the event, the book signing event also?
Oh yeah, well, he and I think his person or colleague that was traveling with him, Elizabeth, I think was her name, and they brought 60 books. Well, they sold all 60 books that day and that night. So that was a good thing to show that really reveals the interest that we have in our community. But Roosevelt, I generally tell folks that I know to start with chapter 8, since it's about Allendale and about the finances of freeways. It was really good, and I was hopeful that people would process it and really be a little angry, because Chuck made it very clear, and just taking this economic justification report that NLCOG contracts for someone to do, and just, and you think about it, that they're only measuring or attempting to measure 3 points to prove and justify the freeway. And Chuck goes into all the details of all 3 of their evaluations and says, it's just bunk. It's propaganda. And then he proceeds to explain to us with his engineering expertise just how ridiculous that report is in trying to quantify dollar-wise the savings on time by trying to say that we're going to get this annual huge economic impact from doing nothing more than an exit ramp economy, and then that we create value in our community by building these freeways so that people can drive farther to work and just expand our city out. And they created this huge economic impact of $800 million a year, which Chuck said, think about that. And then he did the math on the life of the freeway and said, you think was it 17 billion or trillion or $7 trillion? And he says, it's just not real. None of it's real. And so I was really taken with it. I had one person come up and said that they loved Chuck, but they were having trouble following and really truly understanding the key points. And I thought, well, it's probably challenging their mental models, but it was, I thought it was just a very excellent presentation.
How do you feel about it, John?
Well, I really was just enthralled. I've read the book, and it was great to have the visual aids that go along with the presentation, that I think do help. I can see how someone might be, it is a new way of thinking about transportation, but it's actually the honest way to think about our transportation. We're talking about spending trillions to build more infrastructure, even though we can't keep up what we've already built. And that's all a Ponzi scheme, basically. As long as they keep building more, the economy stays afloat, but then you gripe because they can't keep up what's already built, especially here in Louisiana, where we don't have that many people on the road to pay the taxes to support all of that, yet we still build more. So that, to me, after years of following this, is the waste, fraud, and abuse that we all say we want our politicians to wipe out, yet they can't wait to vote to spend more money on transportation. It's a real shame, but once your eyes are open to it, you can't not see it. You know, everywhere you go, you see we can't afford to keep the lights on the bridge across Cross Lake. It's an interstate bridge because the electricity's too expensive for the city budget, for instance. If you ask, they'll tell you, yeah, that's what's happening. We can't pay their bill, but that's not something they're proud of, so they don't advertise that. You have to really dig to find out these things.
Another thing that that I think is very important about Chuck, and I think Shreveport is really lucky that Chuck has taken a liking to us as a community. I'd like to study systems and understand systems, and there's a new work that I'm reading around system conveners, and as though you can kind of liken them to prophets. And Chuck Marohn is identified as one of those system conveners. And the important thing about that is Chuck has helped expose flaws in the system. And he's giving us new language to think about and to come up with ways to correct the bad outcomes that the transportation system, in this case, is producing. And I really love his simplifying our thinking for us. And I hope that our leaders can begin to digest this beautiful simplicity, to think of our transportation network for vehicles as streets, which are low speed and are platforms for producing community wealth locally. And then roads, which are high speed connections between places that we want to be. And that's really, those two things are high value for a city. And so if we start thinking like that, then what he's said, we've made a horrible mistake, is that we started building these networks within cities that try to combine streets and roads, and he termed them stroads, and said that doesn't work. It's the most dangerous, least productive for wealth building in a city, and it's what expands your infrastructure in a way that you can't afford it. And so, that which brings us to Market Street and the Business Boulevard, and saying Market Street's a strode. Shreveport's full of stroads, and Chuck has given us a challenge. How do we unstrode all of those things to try to make our city more equitable, wealthier, and a better place to live?
Do you, all right, so I was looking at this, and I'm trying to remember what it is. It's I think it's Market Street to Uri Drive, and it goes through South Highland. Is that it? Hold on, did I say that? I hope I said that right. I hope it's Market Street.
No, it's Line Avenue, I think, is what you're thinking.
And it goes by the juvenile court. It's a street that goes right in front of juvenile court.
That's Uri Drive, and that's Highway 1, State Highway 1.
Okay. The only reason I brought up State Highway 1, because it turns into Uri Drive when it hits Highland, is that at one point you have right there in the beginning part, you have where it is a kind of, it's a street. I hope I use the right one. It's a street to where traffic can go by. But if you want to go to the, the gas station or the, the little areas around there, they have like a little side pocket road right next to it.
Mhm.
Right. You can just go as fast as you want to until you get to your drive. But if you want to go to the little shops or whatever, or the street or the neighborhood on the other side, you gotta, you get off right here at this intersection, and then you take the little side service road over. And I was driving, and I told my mom, I said, I think this is something kind of what he was thinking about, kind of the makeup of kind of what he was thinking about.
It's one of the examples of a way of trying to make a road that is a road or a high-speed connection, and then making these streets that are adjacent to the road. It's still a combination, but it's a better combination than a lot of things. And that was done before the freeways were put in, is my recollection of how long Uri Drive has been there. But when Uri Drive gets to Kings Highway, it then becomes a real strode. There are no, and you can feel the difference, because you feel pretty comfortable going relatively fast on that part of Uri Drive that you're describing, that has the streets like service roads, I guess, adjacent to the boulevard. And then you get to Kings Highway and it all blends together. And it doesn't feel good at all, where Highway 1 has been widened through a residential neighborhood, and now you've got all these driveways and curb cuts into commercial businesses that used to be homes. And it's kind of a mess when you get beyond Kings Highway.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's North Spring Street, and North Spring turns at East Stoner Avenue. It turns into Uri Drive, but it still has that service road that you can take. And right. I went further down to further down Uri Drive, and like you said, it just turned into this humongous strode with these cutaways and people coming in and out of traffic, and you got to turn left to get over to I went over to film over there. You got to turn left across track. It becomes this headache. And he talked about that, the difference between streets, roads, and stroads. And we do love stroads.
Yeah. Well, and they're placeless. That's the other point, is that you want to build a city full of places that people want to be. And a stroad is not a place. If all you're doing is trying to speed up, your ability to go shop at a big box, or to, that really doesn't makes us, and my wife, I remember her making this expression, is that she was stopped at a red light and she was looking around and she said, if I didn't know where I was, I wouldn't know where I was, because it all starts to look very monotonous and the same, and not like Shreveport, or, not a place that we are all feeling a part of, that takes preference over people versus cars. And Chuck makes a point, and about the places that we go to be consumers or to be together, we drive slow. We drive 15 miles an hour. And even at a big box, once you get off the strode, you're in a parking lot, you're going slow. And so anyway, it's a lot to process, but it's like, boy, and it's our challenge for Allendale Strong. How do we get our community to start pondering this new perspective that Chuck is giving us? And then how do we start putting our creative energy to start real placemaking again that prioritizes people, and I'll say people and not stuff, including cars.
So how you feel about that, John?
Yeah, I've noticed that before I got interested. I was like, more and more, all of our cities, as I travel around the region for work and for pleasure, that it's the same Applebee's and the same, you know, basically just the same restaurants, different city, strung along a giant strode. I didn't have that term, but it's every city in this region, and imagine every city I've been in. I like to drive all over the country, and it's kind of become the same place everywhere you go. This very
And
boring.
our lead, I think our leaders believe in Strodes. They somehow feel very committed that when they're trying to go turn the spade in the ground for a new big box or something like that, that they're very pleased with themselves to keep building that kind of an environment. And not knowing about the Ponzi scheme, and really not yet understanding the change in their thinking.
Yeah, they widened the 70th Street. They were popping corks on the champagne. They added a 5th lane mile all the way down 70th, which is a state road. Didn't have to pay the full bit because the state taxes were paying part of it, and they were proud of it. But now it's just as congested as ever, and it costs more to keep up. They added more costs to the future. So I don't see the benefit in it, but I didn't understand it until I took an interest in how our built environment really is changing the way we live. We don't go out on the porch anymore. It's too dangerous, and it's just, you don't walk anywhere. You can't walk to the store. I just see us as we're living completely differently than my grandparents did, and it's a shame. But we got to turn back to that, or we're gonna be crushed under the weight of all of those repair bills for the highways.
I mean, just think about the future. How they wanted us to live in the future. Everything was motorized. You didn't walk. Walk was that was what they did in the caveman days, right? You look at the Jetsons. We had flying cars, and
now we're all overweight and we have diabetes.
That's what I was thinking. The Jetsons didn't have to worry about obesity and diabetes. So, they were a cartoon character. And we do. Yeah. We need to be active, and I know I'm not active enough, and can feel the pain at my age when I'm kind of inactive. But
yeah. So, you guys have any last thing you want to add on to the presentation and the book signing?
Don't miss Chuck's presentation. He's on tour all over the country. So if he's coming to a town near you, you need to see it.
And we will be sharing little excerpts of that, right, John, of his presentation for those that are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. We have it all on video. So look forward to that coming this fall as we get a chance to get through all of that video. But so then the next day we gathered again at our host had us back for another meeting, Kim, and that was kind of your deal. So
it really, and I really appreciate both of y'all participating and our whole group. It was an experiment that is kind of growing out of community renewals work and some other work called strategic doing, and working with a friend and colleague, Murray Lloyd, on a relational leadership. So we framed it as agile community, which is a way of being and a way of doing, or a concept and a practice. And so we had the opportunity to, give some 15 minutes or so slides on what that's about, which we really frame it as community renewal is growing the relational foundation, which is this network of caring people that are beginning to connect. And then Agile Communities, really about growing their capacity to be more whole individually and collectively, and to transform community systems like transportation. And so that was great to be able to do that, and to have a panel in this workshop that included you, Roosevelt, and Dorothy Wiley, our president of Allendale Strong, and Danielle Richard, who's really joined our Allendale Strong network in her professional communications business and our public relations, and then also Chuck. And the way the workshop worked was to take three framing questions and have deeper conversations about how we can take the outcomes that those questions frame, and get the energy in the room to start moving toward that outcome. And to guide that conversation, we bring in a discipline called strategic doing, which is really it's a way of guiding loosely joined open networks to do innovation. And we could have a whole session on that, but very, very simply, it's how do you design and guide conversations, with conversations being the most basic unit of collaboration. And so the discipline revolves around 4 simple questions. What could we do together? Then, which is really saying, given the direction we're trying to go, what are the networks we're willing to share, and what does it look like if we combine the networks in the room that we can control? We're going to see new opportunities. And then moving to a second question of what should we do, which is generally you get a lot of ideas out of a what could you do question. So the what should you do is, now with all those possibilities, where are we going to start? And the what should we do, you can think of as what's the big easy, or what is the easiest thing to do that produces the biggest outcome. And you start there. And so those 2 questions, what could you do and what should you do, frame or add more concrete description of the outcome that we're trying to get to. And then the third question is, well, now that we've answered what could and should we do, what will we do? Which is very simply a way to say, all right, we're at a table, or in this case, we had about 4 or 5 tables, and saying, now that we've see where we ought to start, who's going to do what by when? Just an action plan. But with strategic doing, it's really about getting everyone involved and just taking simple steps, small steps, and those small steps accumulate to be bigger. And then the last question is, what's our 30-30? And that's really saying, when are we going to get back together? And generally, a 30-day cycle could be weekly or whatever, but let's say 30 days. And so your thinking is, well, what did we learn in the last 30 days? And then how are we going to adjust our path? And what are we going to do in the next 30 days? And so it's those 4 questions that really are the meat of strategic doing and way to guide conversations. And I feel fortunate to be a part of that, just like I've been a part of community renewal, that both those things have impacted me and have led me to see this opportunity around Agile Community. But it was an experiment. It was the first time to do that workshop, and it was wonderful that y'all were there. And John, you took great notes, and Roosevelt, I was so pleased that your mom came. She does look a lot like Najuri, but and I made that mistake. And next time, I hope I get to see her again and get to know her as your mom, and not keep looking at her like, that sure looks like Najuri.
Yeah, with a mask on, you cover up everything else. I know the audience is like, they look like Najuri. Yeah, well, my mom and Najuri both have shaved their heads bald, and they wear these big earrings, right? So
Yeah.
I can see that. With a mask on, it happens. Yeah, I mean, and that conversation really, I really like the input that a lot of people is throwing out there, right? You know, John Paul Young, you know, he threw some ideas out there and he threw some action out there too. It's like, yeah, I do it.
Yeah. My one of my regrets is we only experimented with the "what could you do" question in that in our workshop for the three outcomes that we framed. And for those listening, the three framing questions were around three topics. One of them was that we've got this wonderful learning doing group or community in Allendale. What would it look like if we had more of those kind of learning doing groups working across Shreveport? Imagine a full city of those kind of groups working to strengthen our community. And then we framed another conversation around how do we unstrode and what would it look like if we had community leading the unstroding of North Market Street, and which really is talking about how do we do the boulevard or make it a platform for as a street for wealth building. And then the third outcome or conversation we framed was what would it look like to have a relational leadership network that was providing the guidance for all of these learning doing groups to be aligned and strengthening our overall city. So that it was fun to frame those questions with some input from our Allendale core team and working with input from Murray Lloyd and some other, and Ed Morrison with strategic doing. And so the next step will be, let's do this again. And you know so if any viewers have ideas for deeper conversations in community, you know, let us have them, because the next time we'll frame one question and we'll have a complete strategic doing question and really just try to get the word out ahead of time so we can attract those that are truly interested in answering that framing question and are ready to commit to learning and doing.
Yeah, I you know, it's good to have these conversations, because when you have these conversations, like you say, ideas come up, but you always got to have that next thing, like, what are going to be your actions, right? Yeah. One of my wife's favorite things is to bring up about her PTA meetings, and people come in with all these ideas, and the next thing they ask, you know, the people that's been in PTA for forever, the next thing they ask is, when are you gonna start it? What are you gonna do? Right? And it's like, oh, I didn't know I had to do it. Right? That's a great idea. What are you gonna do? Right? So
well, you know, you're right on that. That's why I think strategic doing is so valuable to any person or group that wants to embrace it, is because it really does go at that. I mean, I've been in the circular conversations and you know, where you get together and get some really good ideas, and it's always, well, we need to get them to do it, or we're always, you know, everybody's thinking of stuff, but they always want somebody else to do it. And this starts to break it down where we're going to agree on what we want to do together. And then we're all going to commit to do small steps to get started. And it really is interesting. And the strategic doing started in 1994. Actually, it started here in Shreveport when Ed Morrison was living here. But it begins to move us toward collective action and a way to you know, put our ideas together, sift through them, agree on what we're going to do, and then agree to start with small steps. And the cycle is pretty amazing, because if you have success in small things, then your next projects will be more complex, and you will grow in your capacity to do more and more complex things as a group. And that's part of the science behind strategic doing that is pretty amazing. It's a discipline, no doubt. It's a discipline to do that, but it's cool stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. John, you want something you want to add on to the presentation? You took a lot of notes, and you also once again set up to have the presentation film. So that was great.
Yeah, I can't wait to get in front of the editor and start editing some video. But no, that more and better conversation. Shreveport really, I don't know how other cities are, but we have neighborhood groups, but they don't attend a lot of the meetings, and they don't really accomplish very much. You know, they complain a lot, but the strategy of actually doing something about it, or as the saying goes, argue to agreement with our city leaders to be able to say, yes, this is a painful decision, but here's why it's important. And understand, you know, once I got involved, I understood, no wonder these guys don't return your phone call. They're busy all day long returning phone calls and emails, and then they have their real job that pays their salaries. So you develop a deeper understanding when you get busy, and you also, I think, accomplish things. I think, you know, in sort of wrapping up, I realized somebody was asking me about some different projects, and I was like, everything really started with Dorothy holding a meeting, Dorothy Wiley, who Chuck calls her hero, his hero, starting a meeting to try to understand why cities build highways. I mean, it really doesn't make sense if you think about it. Why would you build a highway through a city? I can see building it to the city, but then you want to not go fast. And from there came a growth period of more people getting involved, like me. And then the citizens started with that little bit of conversation going, saying, no, we don't think we're interested in another $1 billion boondoggle building project. We'll borrow the money and build a billionaire a stadium, for instance. That was shot down by a movement of people of Shreveport saying, no, thank you. And then there was another one that came out of that, where a developer from New York City brought in a development team from Detroit and said, we're going to do a big expensive project. We'd like you to finance at Shreveport. And the citizens rose up and said, no, thank you. We don't believe we want to take on any more debt for something that benefits someone else. And so this has been a slow process, but out of a lot of meetings and a lot of strategic conversations has come bigger and bigger campaigns to argue to agreement with our city leaders that ultimately have the final say, and they vote no. They say, no, we don't want to do this project. So I'm optimistic cautiously about the future of Shreveport, because more and more groups, now Broadmoor Neighborhood Association is actually ready to go engage the Caddo Parish School Board over the school closure in their neighborhood. They would like to have a say in what's done with that property, how it's disposed of now that it's been declared surplus. So life's, you know, always a struggle, but it seems like maybe the glass is getting close to half full now instead of half empty in Shreveport. And I see other reasons to be hopeful that Shreveport can turn a corner. And it was certainly a great shot in the arm to bring Charles Marohn here, and like a cherry on top of the dessert, having Shawn Wilson come to town and spend a significant hour and a half, I'd say, with Allendale Strong in the room where it all began. Like a dozen years ago, Kim? maybe 10 years ago.
Well,
Something like that.
2012, it had, I guess it'll soon be 10 years.
Coming up on 10 years, yeah. So it changes slow, but we've been seeing changes, and it all started with that first meeting that Dorothy put together over in Allendale. And with also, got to give a lot of props to Miss Rosie Chaffold, who's really started it all when she built her garden and stopped the drug dealers from using that vacant lot because it was now a garden. And change is slow here, but we seem to be turning in a much more positive direction.
I mean, I was very inspired by the weekend. My mom was inspired by the weekend. I think everybody left that weekend with a different vibe. And it was a very good vibe. So, you know, is anybody that you want to thank in hindsight there, Kim? I know, you know, First Presbyterian was very helped us out a lot to use their property. So is there anybody else you want to thank for that weekend?
Well, yeah, I would like to re-emphasize thanks to First Presbyterian. That's the church I attend. And I'll share this with you. Just the person that organizes these University of First Pres events, which is what this was considered by the church, said that they want to be a part of any future meetings that we convene. And even if we convene them in another place, which I told her, I think our next one, we want to look at other places in the community, but we would appreciate their being a sponsor. You know, we hadn't even asked yet, but I know Blessed Sacrament is one of the places that we would sure like to consider convening our city around a big question or a deeper strategic doing conversation. And you know, I would hope, and from the conversation I had, feel like that the church probably will want to be involved in that kind of outreach, which is really exciting to me to see that begin to happen. You're muted. Muted.
Oh yeah, I might need to unmute myself. But yeah, I'm glad you guys that we were able to come on and talk about the past weekend. Like I said, it's a very inspirational weekend. I'm very happy I was able to attend. I got a lot out of that weekend. I got a whole lot, and I know you guys did also. So do you have any last words you want to bless upon our viewers and listeners?
Well, just a teaser, I guess, but some will know that we're trying to challenge NLCOG on their technical modeling, and we're making some hopeful progress on that. There may continue to be resistance, but we're excited about what that could mean if we get that information under the Freedom of Information Act.
How about you, John?
Yeah, likewise, it's Freedom of Information type request. What in March, Kim, and they're now found the stuff they were looking for to share with us, and now discussing what it'll take to get them to actually release it. I don't know how much longer that conversation can be had before they actually just have to turn over the information. But yeah, that's an exciting thing to come. I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the future. And I'd like to remind everybody, you can find us on social media, on our Facebook page, which is growing, still almost 5,000 Friends of Allendale strong on that page. We're on Twitter. We often retweet. One Visionary is Secretary Wilson's handle on Twitter, and he gets a retweet from us. But what a great weekend, and what a great experience just to be with you guys. And thanks for coming in, Roosevelt, and hanging with us for a while.
Yeah, and I always enjoy being with you guys.
Oh yeah, you already know. Anytime I can get back to Allendale, I am on my way. But and thank you for talking about where they can find us on social media, and they can also go to our website, allendalestrong.org, and you can also catch our podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Just search Allendale Strong on YouTube, or search Allendale Strong anywhere you listen to your podcast, and you will find us talking about Allendale Strong. Like I said, this is just an inspirational weekend, and I hope that you guys are able to catch us next time that we have something. Catch our events area on allendalestrong.org, and you can check us out every time we have a meeting, and you can also get with us, and we may be able to send you a link for you to be able to attend our meeting. So I want to thank John, I want to thank Kim for joining us today. And I want to thank everybody else for listening or watching us on your computers or phones. And I want to tell everybody to have a gracious and blessed day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.